yielding, and I want to say that I agree with a great deal of what Ms. Kapner just said. She's a very thoughtful legislator. One of the things that hasn't been addressed today is something that I think we should really pay attention to, and that's history. Back in the 1970s, we spent ourselves into a real hole, and we had what was called hyperinflation. Interest rates were supposedly a solution to the problem. We had inflation that was about 14%. We had unemployment that was 10 or 11 or 12%. And so they brought Mr. Volcker in, who was the head of the Fed at the time, and they raised the interest rates to 21.5%. because that was the only way they thought they could get inflation under control. And it put a hammer on the economy. Now, the reason I bring this up is because we are heading toward hyperinflation again. We're spending so much money that we don't have that they're going to have to print it. We're spending $700 billion on the TARP plan. We don't know where the money's going. We've got another $825 or $30 billion coming up in the next couple of weeks. We're going to be looking at $2 or $3 trillion in additional spending that we don't have. And where do you think that money's going to come from? It's going to come from the taxpayer, and it's going to come from the hides of the people of this country, because they're going to have to print that money. And when they do, we'll have more money chasing fewer goods and services, which means we're going to have very high inflation. And what will happen then? They'll come back with a hammer, and they'll say the only way to stop inflation is to raise interest rates, which will put us into another economic decline. It'll be like a rubber band. We'll be going like this. The best way to deal with the problem today is to cut taxes, to stimulate economic growth by helping the private sector and giving the American people more disposable income, not by printing more money and just throwing money at these problems. It's not going to solve the problem. It's going to cause severe economic problems down the road that we don't even visualize yet that will be so bad. And so I'd just like to say to my colleagues, let's think about the kids in the future that are going to bear the responsibility for this. They're the ones that are going to be paying the price, because we're spending so much money we